Hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to make this website. It's a very simple one. It's got a logo, navigation up here. We have our heading, and then we'll just have a simple portfolio down here and our footer. I'm not going to go into these pages. It's pretty much the same thing. Of course, they don't look the same, but if you can get this down, then you can get the links to like the about page, services page, and the contact page down. We'll get started right after this. And welcome back. Before we get started, I'm going to explain to you what I have set up right here. This is Visual Studio Code, and I've already set the files up. This right here, this little fork thing, just shows that it is an active repository because I have built this particular site before. I just have the index and the style deleted. So these are the only two things that are needed for the site. And I already found the images and I put them in. So, okay. So before we get started, I'm going to show you where to find images at. If you don't know about this website, about pexels.com, it is a free it is a free website to get good high quality images from, and all you need to do is type in the search bar what you're looking for, and this is the image that we're going to be using right here for the website. But this is where I found all of the images that we're going to be using, and this is an excellent website to go to for practice images. Even for images that you're going to use for commercial purposes, just make sure that you read the descriptions of them and make sure that you follow the instructions that the photographer has. Some of them want you to mention them wherever you use them. Some of them are completely free to use. It just depends on what you're using the images for. Just please make sure that you credit the photographer if that's what they need. So, okay, we have our images already in an image folder. Let me show you what this looks like. Here's the portfolio tutorial folder. So we just have our index page right here. We have our images, which you'll see the images, and then we have our CSS file, which is blank right now, as you can see. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to do all the HTML first, and then I'll do the style. It's a little confusing if I keep going back and forth, so I'm going to do all the HTML, and then I'll do the CSS. In Visual Studio Code, there are shortcuts in order to set up the whole header section. You just hit exclamation mark and then tab on one CSS. Okay, cool. I'm going to name this Photography Portfolio. While we're up here, we're also going to link the style sheet. That's link and tab, if you're wondering what that shortcut was. So we're going to go into the CSS folder, go unstyle.css. I'm going to hit Control S to save that. Okay, so in the body section, okay, we have 6 categories, so we're going to copy and paste this 6 times. Sorry for the silence. I'm going to kind of remain silent during the parts that I feel like I really don't need to explain. I can go back and explain it to you when I'm done with the HTML, why I set it up the way I did. But I'm kind of messing myself up if I'm kind of talking and typing at the same time. So. The keyboard shortcut that I'm using to move these back and forth is Command left bracket, and that moves it to the left, and Command right bracket moves it to the right. So we have our 6 boxes right here, and I'm going to go in and change the information so that the different images are displayed. It's one thing I like about Visual Studio Code, and I'm pretty sure the rest of them have that too, is that it'll tell you when you screwed something up. I believe that one was butterfly. Silence my phone because that can get annoying. Okay. Okay, let's save that. Then we're going to go look to see, just to make sure that we're on the right track here. So we're going to go to open with live server. And yep, it looks like crap, but it is everything that we need to be there is there. So we're definitely going to fix all this once we get to CSS. Okay, and I do believe the last thing that we have left is our footer. I always think it's a better idea to put content inside of a content div. I could put the content right inside the footer, but I have a lot less control over it that way. This way I have the footer is the container. Just think of it as this is the outside container and this is the inside container. Whatever your name is. And you can obviously put anything down here that you want to. This is the copyright symbol. It's a code for special characters. Okay. We have everything there that we need to be there, so right on to the CSS. This is going to start looking a lot better. We'll set our globals first. This is another thing I like about it, is the suggestions. I know that would have bothered some of you. It would have bothered me too. Alright, this is for the header. Here's the background image. URL. Even if our image is in our dev environment here, it's still okay to use URL. Now these dots right here, these are saying that we need to go out of a folder. And they're only there because right now we're in the style folder, and we're in the CSS folder in style.css. If we were in the index, we wouldn't need, see how we're in index here, we're not in a folder. We're in the main folder, so we can just put img colors, which is, this is the folder. We need to go into the img folder, and then it's the file colors.jpg. That's fine because this index file is not in a folder. But on the style sheet, you need to add these dots and the / because you're in a folder. You're in a CSS folder. So this tells the computer that we need to come out of the CSS folder right here and go into the img folder. I love using grid, by the way, but I don't use it in a traditional way. I use it per section, you know, so I have a couple different grids. Like in this website, I'll have 2 different grids. I feel like I have a lot more control over it that way. A lot of people will use one grid and do the whole site like that, but I feel like that's much more confusing. You can sure do it that way if you want to, but definitely totally up to you. And with this background color, I used an RGBA just so I can use this opacity right here. If I would have just put background color black or RGB 000, it would just be black. So I like to use the RGBA so that I can control the opacity. And here in a second we will look at the top. These margins and paddings are just to position them the way they need to be positioned that they'll look okay. These are for the navigation links themselves. This removes the underline. They're blue by default, but why not? There's 10 pixels in between each link. Increase the font size a little bit. And then we want the links to turn white whenever we hover over them. Okay, this is the header info. Remember how I said I like to put our wording in an info div just so I'll have a little bit more control over it. We're going to absolute position this. I'm going to make 50% from the left and 50% from the top. And I'm going to align the text to the center. And we're going to go a little bit deeper. Okay, let's look at it. So here we have our logo, we have our links that turn white when we hover over them. This is the background opacity. You can adjust that however which way you want to. You can make it darker, you can make it lighter if you want to. If we wanted to make it darker, we can change the opacity to 0.5 if we want to. Then that gets a little bit darker. I don't like it that bold, so I like to stay around 0.2. So there goes our header. Now we need to get into the rest of down here. We'll start with the portfolio title. Okay, that should be our title right here. Alright, now to put the portfolio where we want to. So I'm going to use grid again for our portfolio. This 3 right here is I want 3. I want 1, 2, and 3, and then I only want them 3 across. Okay, so that's our grid set up. We get into the images. Put a box shadow on them so they don't look super flat and boring. And make that gray. Once again, you can make that any color that you want to. You can make them black. I like a subtle box shadow, so I make mine gray. If you make it black, it'll be a little bit more bold. The H3s are these right here. So I'm going to add padding around them. When you do 4 like this, it's top, right, bottom, left. So it goes in a clockwise motion starting at the top. So we want the top to be 10 pixels, the right to be 0 pixels, the bottom to be 50 pixels, and the left to be 0 pixels. And color maroon. And save them. Now we're going to do our boxes, which I'm glad I looked at because I didn't change. That was probably bothering the crap out of you. Okay. Alright, so text align, center. Save that. Let's look at our site, see what we have. We have perfectly aligned boxes. Of course, this will link to more food. Doesn't now because we're not doing the pages. And then this will be a flower page, obviously a fall page. These are categories. All right, let's do our footer. Put this text right in the center. And that should be it for our desktop version. Okay, now we need to make sure that this site is responsive. Because, as you can see, if we resize the image, it goes all wonky, and yeah, that's not a good look at all. So what I'm going to do is switch over to Google Chrome, which I've could have done in the first place. Well, you know what? It does it. When you go through live server, it uses your default browser, which mine is Safari. So I'm just going to copy this address, and I'll show you why I'm going over to Google here in a minute. Okay, so I went over to Google because if you go up here to View, Developer, DevTools, when we resize this, if you can watch the upper right hand corner, you'll see that as we resize it, you see the dimensions of the screen. And in order to make a page responsive, you're going to need to know the dimensions of the screen. So I can say, okay, it starts to look funny right about here, and I can stop and say, okay, this is 892 or 890. If I would stop moving it, 895 pixels. I can start constructing my MIDI queries down here, which, as you know already, I've already done this. So I just wanted to show you that. So whenever you go to make your page responsive and you need to know, okay, what size is my screen when that happens, that's one way that you can do it, is just to go into DevTools in Google Chrome, and it'll show you where you're at. So I think the first one was 1,000 pixels, so we're going to go to 1020 here. We'll go to 1019 so I can show you what it's doing, what it'll do. Put our first media query. Let's try that again. Okay, we're going to go up here and we're going to get that top banner. We're going to get that. I'm going to put it down here. And then we're going to get our logo and our nav. That I don't know how to get rid of, but we're going to go up and get nav. If anybody knows what that is, let me know, because that's like really annoying and it's something I haven't been able to get rid of. And then we're going to go get, I think that's all we need. We have our top banner, we have the logo. Okay, we need our logo IMG, our logo images here, or our logo image. There it is. So we're going to grab this. I'm going to bring it down here. So our top banner, we're going to take the grid off of. And we're going to display block. And then we'll keep the background color, and then we're going to align everything to the center. So our nav, we're going to align everything to the center and take the margin off of everything. We'll set the margin back at 0 so that it's right in the middle. And then our logo, we're going to change the height to 50 pixels, which will make it a little bit smaller, and then our margin's going to be 10 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 pixels on the left and right. So we'll save that. I'm going to close that because I already know what my dimensions are. So this is what happens at this screen size. So the background stays, but the navigation just goes under and everything stays in the center. So, matter of fact, I'm going to open that up again so you can see. Okay, so down here, notice these are getting a little bit close and they start looking funny right about here. So we're going to go to 1,000 pixels. And that's about our limit as to what that looks like. Honestly, you can go a little bit above that, but and of course you can do whatever you feel looks the best. We're going to take the grid off of the portfolio and we're going to display it as block. So everything's in line. And then it looks great here and it looks like it's going to be fine, but when you get down to here, our top's going to go okay, but our middle's going to look kind of funny. So what we're going to do is add one more media query. At 800 pixels. And we're going to go up here, we're going to grab that header again. And we're going to grab the header info. Alright, we're going to keep that there. And keep that as no repeat. Keep that as cover. Yeah, 800 pixels and 100%. And then our header info is absolute. And we're going to keep our background image where it's at. We're going to move our header info. So this hasn't changed. We really don't need to put that there, but just in case we need to change anything, I went ahead and brought it down. So our position's absolute. From the left is 50%. From the top is 60% because we want it to come down a little bit. Our text align is center. We're going to adjust it a little bit so that it's right in the middle. If you're a little bit confused on what that is, I do have a video on how to center a div, and I'm doing the exact same thing. Okay, so we're going to save that. And you see how that went right to the center. But if we get a little bit smaller, we'll see that our photographer starts to go away a little bit. So we're going to add one more media query to the header. And that's at 570 pixels. I'm going to copy this and bring it down here, but what we're going to do is change the background position. And we're going to move it to the left 120 pixels. Yeah, save that. And we'll see how she moved over. Okay, so let's keep an eye on our responsiveness. We'll make it big again. It goes back to the way it was. And then around 1,000 pixels, that goes in the center. That goes in the center as we come back down. And then she gets centered better. And down here, this stays in the center. And everything's aligned. So that is our mobile responsive. Whenever you do a website, even if it's a simple website, you want to make sure that it's responsive, because most people do visit websites these days on their phones. So you want to make sure that they look good on any screen size, whether it would be the computer, which is this size, whether it would be tablet size, which is probably right about here. This would be like tablet sideways. This would be about tablet up and down, vertical. This would probably be mobile horizontal, and mobile vertical. So you want to make sure that they do respond and that they do look good. Also, whenever you go to upload a website to its server, whether you go through HostGator or Bluehost or whatever you go through, you want to double check and make sure that it's responding, because some of the hosting companies are a little bit different, and they handle file names and things differently. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it informative. If you learned something, let me know below. If you didn't learn something, let me know below. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, any suggestions for me on how to make how-to videos better in the future, please let me know below. I want to help as best as I can, and I need to know what you guys want to see. So comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you know when I post a video, and I will see you in the next one.